I keep looking at a bunch of small religious channels because I keep finding that a lot of them are doing, well, everything wrong. Here goes yet another channel that pretends atheism is a religion without understanding what a religion is, making a bunch of unsupported pronouncements and proving that, as should be no surprise, that they really don't know much about anything outside of feelings. And we all know feelings don't actually get you anywhere. So let's watch David Carter get it all wrong as he calls atheism the impossible religion.
Atheism is an impossible religion.
Atheism is not a religion unless you completely misunderstand what religion is. The dictionary definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Atheism does not fit any part of that definition. Now, of course, the religious have an emotional reason why they try to cast atheism as a religion, and that reason is, if they can get atheists to think that they're just another side to the same coin, atheists should stop criticizing them. Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it?
There's a lot of things that need to be said that really are crazy to think about.
You mean like your imaginary father figure in the sky? Or all the claims made in your silly mythological books of multiple choice? Or all of the irrational nuttery that the religious cling to because it makes them feel good? Because I talk about those things all the time. Or is that not what you meant?
But the average atheist will have all kinds of moral issues.
I really have no idea what you're talking about because most atheists are more moral than the majority of theists. And this is nowhere more clear than in the prison system. If you look at entry statistics in American prisons, and these are entry statistics, not in-prison conversions, often made to appeal to parole boards, the religious make up more than 96.4% of all inductees, while atheists, at least as of 2015, made up 0.1% of all inmates. If we jump back to the Pew Research data for 2014, which is the closest we can get to 2015, we find that those who reported being atheist were 3.1% of the general population, which is far higher than the 0.1% of atheists in prison. Further, if we look at the number of people reporting to be religious in general society, the number of people who are religious is 76.5%, far lower than the 94.6% of prison inductees that claim to be religious. So it seems like being religious makes you less moral, not more.
They'll say, well, it's wrong to do this, it's wrong to do that, it's, ain't that too bad? But morality is something that's only a Christian term.
Which is total nonsense. Every religion out there has their own moral views, so clearly morality exists in more than Christianity. And atheists, as I've already shown, are even more moral, at least in terms of prison inductees, than Christians and other religious people are. So this isn't just wrong, it's laughably wrong.
What I mean by that is only in a biblical worldview can you make sense of morality. If we just happened by random chance and everything evolved, then there would be no such thing as right or wrong.
Of course there is. There would be no such thing as right and wrong handed down by a magical sky daddy, which is clearly the case, but there would still be independent personal accountability to the more than 7 billion human beings inhabiting this rock we call home. Morality has never and will never come from a book of mythology, but from enlightened self-interest. We want, in general, to be treated a certain way, hence we treat others that way in hopes they will reciprocate. That's where morality comes from, for the religious and non-religious alike. Some people just don't like that and make up mystical men in the sky to explain things that really don't need to appeal to emotion to understand.
No atheist could ever say, legitimately, according to their own worldview, oh, it's wrong to do such and such.
Yet millions of atheists do so every single day. I don't want to be murdered, hence I declare that murder is wrong. I don't want to be robbed, hence I declare that robbery is wrong. And I can argue for the social benefits of making those things illegal all day long, something that the religious simply cannot do. They can only declare that their unproven and unjustified beliefs in deities that can't be shown to be real somehow makes them moral. Yet apparently it doesn't.
Why would it be wrong to kill anybody at any time for any reason, or rape or any other sinful thing?
Because it harms people, and a society that doesn't outlaw those things doesn't tend to survive well. You only have to look at highly religious countries to see that when you abuse some groups of people, like, for instance, women, you get widespread poverty. That's why when you compare nations worldwide, the more religious they are, the poorer they tend to be.
The reason things are right and wrong is because God said things are right and wrong.
Which has no validity whatsoever. In fact, in light of actual hard evidence, that's probably the opposite of reality. When you listen to an ancient book of mythology for your morality, you tend to do worse, often much worse, than people who examine the whole moral question intellectually.
God said don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, don't commit adultery, all of these things.
Well, you believe God said that. You just can't prove it. And that's the real thing here. You're operating on wishful thinking and blind faith that you've got absolutely no objective evidence to support. So why should atheists take anything you say seriously any more than we should take the alien abduction kooks seriously or the flat earth lunatics? You've got to do better than that.
Without God, there is no reason for any morality at all.
That's totally false, as I've already said. There is no reason to think that God, yours or anyone else's, is real in the first place. And without proof that these imaginary friends actually exist, why should we take your claims about them seriously at all?
Morality would be, and that isn't to say atheists can't be moral, that's a problem for atheists.
It seems to be a problem for you because atheists are moral, even at your own admittance. All of the evidence shows that they not only can be, but they are. Methinks the problem is all in your head.
Atheists tend to be fairly moral.
More so than Christians, in fact, and certainly more so than a lot of Muslims. You don't see atheists throwing gays off of rooftops. Muslims in the Middle East have done that. You don't see atheists murdering albinos and grinding their bones up into magic powder. Christians in Africa have done that. There's a lot of sectarian violence that goes on in the world between various religions. Atheism has never launched an attack on a religion. Not once.
And it's because God has written his law on every heart of every person in the world.
Then please explain why the religious are so much more horrible than atheists. Maybe your imaginary friend only wrote morality in the hearts of atheists, whatever that means.
Everyone knows that it's wrong to do the things that God has specifically said we're not supposed to do.
Oh, like not suffering a witch to live in Exodus 22:8, or the demand to stone rebellious children as described in Deuteronomy 21:18-21. There are many calls for violence in the Bible that apparently nobody takes seriously these days. Imagine that.
The trouble is we do them anyway.
Not atheists. I'm sure we could find copious examples of the religious engaging in what I would call immoral behavior, but you'd be hard-pressed to find more than a handful of non-religious people doing the same. Imagine that.
And when we realize that we've done what God has told us not to do, the easiest thing to do for humans is to imagine that maybe God doesn't exist and maybe they can just go on doing whatever they want to do and maybe there won't be a penalty for it.
Which is really idiotic if you think about it. It's like saying maybe criminals can just pretend that the police don't exist, and maybe then they can commit all the crimes they want and suffer no penalties at all. And that works right up until the cops show up and take them off to jail, because pretending that authority isn't real doesn't actually stop authority from being real. Seriously, is this guy that clueless?
But that's totally ignoring reality.
So are you. You're hardly one to talk. In fact, you're basing your entire belief system on an ignorance of reality. Let us know when you can prove this God thing of yours is real, okay?
There's some interesting words of Jesus that I wanted to include in this video. If you look at John chapter 3 and read verses 16 through 18, I believe every word of this passage was spoken directly by Jesus.
Not that you can prove, because you have no evidence that Jesus ever existed. This is a claim that you're making, not evidence that the claim is true. Get back to us when you have evidence.
He said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life."
And you can find all kinds of crazy claims in other competing books of mythology, claims that you don't accept. Why? Because you're emotionally attracted to your particular book of nonsense, so you reject other books of nonsense, all without evidence, reason, logic, or anything else. So my question to you is, why should I take any of these unsupported claims seriously, including yours? Because from where I'm sitting, they all look exactly the same.
He sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved.
Saved from what? The rules that this God of yours made up, knowing full well that man wouldn't be able to keep them? He sacrificed himself to gain forgiveness for people that this all-knowing deity knew beforehand would sin, instead of just forgiving everyone or coming up with a decent set of rules that people could follow in the first place. And this sounds rational to you. How is that?
He that believes on the Son has everlasting life.
Says who? Oh, right, your silly book. Color me not impressed.
But he that does not have the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abides on him.
So what you're saying here is your God is a dick. And that's not a surprise if you actually read the Bible. Why you want to follow this complete prick is entirely beyond me.
Hell is very real. Jesus talked more about it than any other person in the Bible.
There you go again, taking that silly book of yours seriously. I guess that proves Hogwarts is real, because Harry Potter talked about it a lot. This really only works when you can prove that the things in your big book of religious nonsense are actually so. Let me know when you get around to that.
And Jesus is the one that died to keep people out of hell.
Evidence for that? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Atheists really need to give up the religious phony views.
The religious phony views that we don't have. Okay.
And to turn to the one true God.
That, of course, you can't prove is real.
And accept the payment that he has made for their sins.
Sins that you can't demonstrate have any rational validity.
And they'll have eternal life.
Which is just another empty claim made on emotion because you really wish it was so.
So anyway, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, because at the time I'm writing this, the video has 2 thumbs up and 49 thumbs down.
And share it with anyone you like to.
Hey, great! I'm going to share it with all of my atheist followers who are going to take one look at it and laugh their asses off. It's just one more ridiculous video of the religious spouting nonsense that I've taken a look at.
Thank you very much for your time.
And you're welcome. Honestly, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but it's really hard not to fall over laughing at these silly theists when they aren't any better than someone pronouncing that space aliens are shoveling anal probes up their backside. I don't care how personally convinced you are when everything you say is unproven, unsupported, and irrational. It's the worst kind of wishful thinking, and even when we point out what they're doing wrong, they cling to their religious security blanket tighter. They don't care if what they believe is true. They only care if it's comforting. Well, guess what? Comfort doesn't equate to reality. Comfort doesn't get to the truth. In fact, as has become painfully clear from the religious, the more strongly you believe, the less likely you're even in the same zip code as truth. The facts don't care about your feelings, and neither do I. Now, how about you try to prove anything that you said in this video? No? Well, I can't say I'm surprised. It's what the religious fail to do all the time. And that's sad.